Apothecary After Dark.
Welcome to Apothecary After Dark. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Dina. We're the co-owners of Amityville Apothecary. You ever wonder what happens when we shut off the lights and lock the doors of Amityville Apothecary? What we talk about when nobody's around? What we think about all things metaphysical and witchy? Well, stay tuned because we have some really fun topics for you. Welcome to another episode of Apothecary After Dark. We're so excited to talk all things energetic protection and the evil eye with our friend and author of The Evil Eye, Antonio Pagliarulo. Did I get it?
You did.
I did.
You got it.
I did it. So,
Perfect.
How many times, Danielle, do we have somebody that comes into the shop and comes in, like you could tell because they're coming in hot. Like they're coming in like Kramer on Seinfeld.
Yeah, exactly.
Like opening the door and like,
They're on a mission.
do you have the evil eye?
Someone put a hex on me. I need protection.
Somebody put the eye on me.
Yeah, I need evil eye stuff. And I was like, okay, let's
We got
slow
you.
our roll and
We
we'll
got
talk
you.
about it.
So I thought since we have Antonio here, can you give us a couple of quick tips for our watchers and listeners? How would they know that somebody put the eye on them? How does that manifest?
So signs and symptoms, it manifests in a number of ways. If you want to look at things physically, first and foremost, you want to look at physical things, you can get a headache out of nowhere. You feel very, very tired all of a sudden. And obviously, this isn't stuff when I'm talking about, you should know whether or not you've eaten or whether or not your blood sugar. You always want to make sure, that you're not having some sort of physical reaction. But if your head is hurting, you got into a bad mood suddenly, you start yawning, you feel out of sorts, you feel aggressive for no reason. You can tell physically those are the ways in which it could manifest. And then in other ways, look at what's going on in your life. Did you have you noticed, I don't know, did the pipe burst in the basement? That's normal, okay? Everyone has that. But if the pipe burst in the basement and then you got a flat tire and that was followed by you falling down a flight of stairs and this happened within 24 hours, you lost the keys, you did this, you have to notice things that it's unfolding in your life. And you can, it's pretty in your face when it happens. And a lot of people don't see it because they don't want to.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the most important thing, is not only knowing what the evil eye is, but being aware of it.
So how does somebody have the evil eye put on them? Like, why would somebody, I always say, like, why would somebody want to put the eye on me?
Right.
I know, because we're awesome. But
True, number one.
Because we're all awesome.
Because we're awesome, but it goes back to the root of what the evil eye is. And people talk about the evil eye. The root of the evil eye is envy, is jealousy. Okay, that's what, and you have three ways, okay, in which the evil eye can basically be defined. The first is the evil eye, you can be put on someone intentionally. I don't like you. I'm jealous because you're living the life that I think I should be living. Why did you get the house and I didn't? I worked just as hard as you.
This never happens.
Right, I was going to say, there's no envy at all.
Nobody ever gives us the eye.
This is what happens. Somebody looks up and the truth is the truth. I always tell people the book is a friendly reminder about a very unfriendly subject, and that's jealousy, that's envy. So the first way is intentional. Someone doesn't like you or someone is just annoyed that you have something that they don't, okay? And what they see is then feel is the absence of that in their life, and so that's jealousy, that's envy. The second way is unintentional, and sometimes this is where you get people will say, I know growing up Italian, whenever you gave a compliment, you'd say, the baby's beautiful, God bless you, you do this. Some people will turn around, they spit or they do some sort of other little ritual, and they might do it in the pockets. Also Italian, I grew up walking around with my hands like this in the horns because who was looking at me? So, but the unintentional way is you might have some underlying envy, you might have someone, and you really don't mean to give someone, in Italian we call it malocchio, you don't give someone malocchio or the evil eye. But that's unintentional. And then you have the third way, which a lot of people are surprised at this one. This is the way you bring it upon yourself. And can you bring it upon yourself? Yes, you bring it upon yourself by boasting. By boasting. Okay? How many times?
That's interesting. Okay.
You want to celebrate your success. You want to celebrate your kids' success. You want to celebrate the new house that you worked hard for, the new car. But you have to ask yourself, isn't one picture enough on Instagram? You don't have to put 50 pictures up. You know, so when you draw attention to yourself, and earlier I mentioned to you that growing up, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, everyone thought that was great. You got on the honor roll, or you won an award or a prize. That's great, but keep it quiet. Don't talk about it, because when you draw attention to yourself, you kind of you sort of poke the eye. You wake it up, and you're tempting fate, so it can look at you.
Yeah.
And then that's how you can bring the eye upon yourself. So it's this, it's a balance. You have to learn how to celebrate yourself, but still do it mindfully.
So, as an Irish person, talk to me about the horns. Explain the horns to
So
me.
there are amulets. So I write about there. So there are amulets. Now, when I'm talking about
How
the
do you
hand,
hold your hands?
So the hand signal, the monocornuta,
okay.
is this here. Okay, and these are horns here. And what are
Okay.
horns? When you think about it, animals, not everyone has horns, but you don't want to see. But if you have an animal, you watch Animal Kingdom, they have horns. What do? They defend. So when you do the monocornuta, you have this here, and the horns here are pointed downward. We were taught
This protects
this would
you
ward
from-
away. This would ward away the evil eye. This gesture would ward away the evil eye. And there are many gestures and hand symbols, but that's one of them here. And this is also, you've seen an amulet called the monocornuta that, you wear along with the cornicello. Many
Right,
people
which I
wear
have
the
on.
you have a
Here,
horn
yeah.
there.
Little horn, yeah.
So that's one of the amulets. It's an amulet as well, but a hand gesture that we were raised, and you literally just, this is it right here, and it's like this. And in different parts of Italy, in Sicily, it depends. It can mean a different thing in different areas. But where my mom was raised and where she came from, and to some degree, even for my dad is, they're both from Italy, you would do it at different ways. This would be if someone said something, like, oh, be careful, it's a beautiful motorcycle. Don't drive it too fast. You don't want to end up with your, arms on the side of, it was, ooh.
Oh, then you're like, oh,
you would do this and say, word that away. You poke it out like that. But then you also would walk around, if you're meeting someone new, you're going to a new place, maybe there's envy. People always ask me, especially when a wedding is happening or an engagement, and you walk around, someone says something to you, that's a beautiful dress, you look beautiful, this is great, how do you feel, all that stuff, thank you, whatever. But yes, we always have this here,
always
somewhere, or when you turn around, you kind of, this is what you do. And that's the amulet, that's the magic that is within the body. Because you don't need an amulet, because your body is an amulet.
I am cracking up with the conversation because it reminds me of being a kid. And if anybody said any compliment to you, God forbid they gave you a compliment.
Okay.
No,
This is
God
fascinating.
forbid you would get a compliment.
Yeah.
Because the minute, say, somebody would say something, one of the aunts would be like, they.
We would get because we speak the dialect that we grew up with, and they would either say, if you got a compliment and maybe you then got a headache or something happened, they'd say, the the eye came about, or, hanno messo la malocchia, like there are many ways of saying it, but that was the big thing. You got a compliment, and they would sort of watch afterwards to see. And I say this all the time with sort of there are aspects of it that these stories are humorous, they are funny, but the reality is, and I've said this a million times, in every instance, I can remember so many times people have said to me, oh my God, please, you believe in that? What are you talking about? How many times those very people have come to me in private and said, I have to talk to you about something. Is anybody here? Because they do believe in the evil eye. And it's an energetic force.
Right.
And there are many ways, to describe it, even when someone is looking at you. I always tell people to think about, have you ever been somewhere and you feel somebody looking at you, turn around and you notice somebody staring at you. That's the sense of being stared at. A whole book was written about that. Also, you could see it if you ever stared at someone, the old friend, the ex, you see them in the restaurant, you don't want them to see you staring, you don't want them to see you, but you're staring and you're really in a good spot. Maybe you're behind the post or you're behind the tree, they can't see you, you're behind the car, and all of a sudden they turn around and they catch you. What is that? That's the sense of being stared at. That's the energy. And those are the eyes. There's a whole energy to the eyes.
Well, you can also sense like the energy vampires. You feel your energy being drained.
Absolutely.
So now I know how to do the horns. So that's like a good little trick. So
Yeah.
Ward away when you have your hands.
no,
there, yes.
can you like energetically like push it away, or that's just a block? And like, what else can I do if I know that I just had an encounter? I'm like, they just gave me the eye.
So if they gave you the eye, I always tell people to think back also to your own spiritual beliefs. If there's a particular prayer, if there's a particular, and even if you have a relative who has not even recently has crossed over, someone who was protective of you, someone you think about, or someone you pray to. For a lot of people, my grandparent, my grandmother, my grandfather, you can always pray to that person, but you could say a prayer if the hand gestures don't work for you.
Yeah.
And also, this is why I always tell people, if you have to, and that's why amulets are important as well, to wear an amulet, but something as simple as keeping a little bit of salt in your pocket. When you go out, salt is incredibly powerful. You keep a little bit of salt in your pocket, that's going to work. But aside from the hand gestures,
Start sprinkling salt everywhere.
There's a lot of salt everywhere in my our apartment. You should see. You want to just be aware of it, and absolutely the hand gestures, your amulets will take in, and don't ever underestimate the power of staying in the moment. If you think someone has given you the evil eye, and you don't have a candle to burn right there on the spot. Maybe you're in the middle of a parking lot, or you're in a department store, you're in a school, wherever you are, you can't do something. Don't underestimate the power of prayer on the spot. Don't underestimate the power of your own ability to connect with the other side.
I work a lot with Archangel Michael for protection. I call on him. So how does that fit into the whole picture?
Oh, well, the Archangel Michael,
Yeah.
so many of us have thought about the Archangel Michael as a symbol of protection. I posted about him so many times. I have this huge statue of him. And the strength, the sword of the Archangel Michael. I was taught to envision in a visualization, very quickly, if you envision the sword of the Archangel Michael, literally swooping right above you. Some people do above you, below you, right, left, front, back, but very quickly in a full circle, you envision the Archangel Michael, and there you have it. That in and of itself is a prayer.
Yeah.
And it's immensely powerful, and people I think people very often underestimate the power of that.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't, because in a pinch, you pray to the Archangel Michael, you're going to feel that.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to feel his presence.
He's omnipresent. He is instantaneous.
Always.
There. Yeah, I agree. So then, how about the candle magic? What do you do there?
So in candle magic, which I love, we were talking about previously, in the spells that I've written about in the book, if you're someone who you like candle magic and you want to do a simple candle spell, and again, simple but immensely powerful candle magic, you can do something as simple as you can have a white candle if you want. A lot of people fret about, I don't necessarily have a black candle, or I don't have this color candle. You don't really have to. You take your intention, something as simple as anointing your candle with some oil, some olive oil. You state your intention. Again, put salt around your candle holder. You want to burn 2 bay leaves, maybe. You want to do something with that effect. That's simple candle magic. You can inscribe your own name and the word safety around it. You can do other words for it into the candle, and you can let that burn while you pray, while you meditate, while you draw a protection shield around yourself, or just while you think about getting this energy off of me. A simple candle magic spell. Simple, but so effective. And that's why candle magic is so popular. And so, on and on.
I think it's such a good focus, too, because it gives us something to focus our prayers on, that point of...
Immensely, yes. Such a good point.
Focus.
Such a good point. Focus is important. That's what the candle magic does, yes.
Absolutely. I had a dream last night.
Okay.
Again with the Archangel Michael.
Wow. And you're remembering your dreams.
It's not
too,
good
so
when the demons come and I have an Archangel Michael moment. I'm
you're
and then I woke up this morning, I'm like,
protected,
oh boy.
But if he's there...
But I call on him in my dream, and the dreams change, like in mid-dream. It is so wild, but I think we do underestimate the prayer, the calling on those either ancestors, loved ones, the saints, whomever that we feel so connected with. It's so powerful.
For those of you, the whole store is packed. And
there's a lot of people
we're
here.
really, really thrilled. It's raining
you.
out, and the rain's not keeping anyone away.
No,
'cause
thank you so much.
So if anybody,
Thank you. Incredible. Thank you.
So This is, we're really excited because the evil eye and having the eye put upon us is like, everybody's like, something happened. I'm cursed. I have bad energy. It happens all the time. And I'm sure lots of people are going to have questions. So we will have time for questions for you guys that are with us in person. For those of you on Instagram, maybe we could have Alex monitor the comments for us.
Yeah.
Yay, Alex.
And I'm gonna represent the non-Italian.
Beautiful.
Because there's questions that I have that may seem obvious to those of Mediterranean descent, where the evil eye is more intuitive or part of your culture. So, like, if you don't mind just starting for us non-Italian, if you can explain, like, what is the evil eye and what does it mean and how do you know? So that's a good start.
It's a good start, yes. So the evil eye is a negative force that is transmitted through a gland. So look, a stare. And it's, the concept is extremely old. And I said this before, so I'm going to go into it again. But first of all, thank you all for coming. It's amazing that you all came out into this incredible place. So thank you. So the evil eye, it's a force. It's transmitted through a negative look. And I define it in three ways. The first, how do it's intentional. Someone just doesn't like you. Someone is jealous. And the evil eye is rooted in envy and jealousy. And there are these three ways you can really look at the evil eye. The first, I said, is intentional. Someone is jealous of you, doesn't like you, doesn't know why you have something that they think they should have. Maybe you're living your best life. You have the job, you have the house, you have the good relationship, and they just don't like it. And this happens a lot in life, unfortunately. And it's not always from people who you think that are in the past. The friend you had trouble with, the family member you don't speak to, the ex-lover, the ex-boss. It's not only those people. It's who's in your life right now, unfortunately, and that's why you have to look at it. So the intentional way of having the evil eye placed upon you is when people really are jealous and they let you know it. Sometimes you can feel that. Someone will look at you. Someone will just look at you too long. You can sort of sense it in the way they speak.
I'm going to interrupt you
Yes.
because don't you find
Yes.
that the worst eye is from like your family members, or is it just me?
Because
Because I got a lot of eye from my relatives.
Well, you get a lot because don't forget, the family members are the closest to you, and we don't always have boundaries with family members, right? So they say things, you can get into arguments, and that's true. Family families are a tough universe, and each one is a universe. So that does happen. I've had many people talk to me about the evil eye in the family.
Yeah.
And when it's intentional, you know it, either through the look or even through the voice. Someone can say something, and you can just hear it, that nastiness that's in there, the jealousy that's in there. That's the intentional way.
Must be nice.
Must be nice, you look great. You look good. Yeah, right. It's nice. Yeah. You got something there.
That's actually not as bad as, and I hope my grandmother isn't watching this Instagram live, because about 2 years ago when she didn't like my hair, she would introduce me to her friends. I would go visit her in Florida, and she would say, "This is my granddaughter. I'm sorry about the way she looks."
So I can see where you got the idea of the family stuff coming in here. You illustrated that point. Yes, I can see. The other way, though, you can get the evil eye is unintentionally, and that is when many of us were raised with little rituals or customs. You compliment someone, you say, "Oh, the house is beautiful, God bless." You spit, you sort of knock wood. Some people have all these little rituals. Those rituals and those practices are rooted in casting out an unintentional envy. Sometimes you're not really aware of it, or maybe you're aware of it, but you really don't mean to, give someone harm, and you don't want something bad to happen. So you just sort of, you keep it to yourself. But the eye can come through, and that's when it's unintentional. And then you have the third way, which is the one that often shocks people because they don't realize it, and that's when you boast a lot. You bring it upon yourself. You're talking about your own life, your own plans, your own success, your own everything, and you're doing it a little too much. Now, you always have to remember, yes, you should. We should all celebrate our successes, our joys, the happy times, the beautiful times, the holidays, all those things. You want to celebrate that because it's something, your achievements, you should be proud of. But there's a very fine line, as I said earlier, between posting that one picture on Instagram and 55 pictures on Instagram. How many, don't talk, that vacation you have planning, no one needs to know that you're flying business class or that you're going into the best hotel or that you're, keep your plans to yourself because if you boast too much, you're going to bring a lot of negativity towards you. That's how, not only do you rouse other people, to get to be envious, but there's this idea that you can tempt fate by boasting too much about yourself. And whenever I talk about this, I always make it a point to say, you have to celebrate your family's, achievements, your own achievements. Of course, that's what life is about. We want those happy moments, but you just have to do it mindfully, and you don't over exaggerate. Don't talk about it. And always remember, the book, as I say, is a friendly reminder about an unfriendly topic because jealousy and envy are unfriendly things. Nobody wants to talk about that, but we have all been the victims or on the receiving end of someone's jealousy or envy, and we've all felt that. We have also all felt jealousy, whether or not we want to admit it. We've all been jealous of somebody or something in our lives. It's the human condition. It's human nature. So these are things that, you want to remember, but it's a force.
It's so interesting, especially in the world of social media that we live in now. Everybody's posting what they want you to see, what they want you to think, how their life is so fabulous. Like they emulate the Kardashians, and so like they're jet setting, and like everybody else is like tries to keep up with the Joneses or like compare,
the
and
Kardashians,
compete.
yeah.
But of course, like they're not showing what happens on like the non-social media. But
Right.
it's very interesting, and it's wise not to be like flashing everything, every moment of every vacation, and like it's really words for the wise because first you're going to draw that attention toward you, but then also draw the envy too.
You draw the envy, and when you think about it, again, people who sort of don't think it's real or look at it and say, oh, they must be crazy, they're thinking a look or something. There was a time when what's called extramission, people believed that the eyes emitted actual rays, energy. And so there's what I mentioned earlier, I'll mention it again, the sense of being stared at. I think we've all experienced this. You're sitting down at the cafe, you're sitting down at your desk, you're walking around, whatever, you're not doing anything, but you can sense something. You turn around and you see someone staring at you. How did you get that knowledge? What poked you on the shoulder to make you turn around? Nobody, right? It was your intuitive sense. It was an energy that from within, but also from without, if you ask me. We've also been on the other end of it where you're staring at someone from a distance. You don't want them to see you, and all of a sudden they turn around. You've had that happen. I've had that happen. How did they know from 100 feet away that you're staring and looking at them? Again, the sense of being stared at. It's because there is energy, and everything is energy. And it's especially prevalent when we are infusing that with emotion, and that's where you get the evil eye. You have to be aware of that. So people looking at your Instagram, people looking at all of your things, keep it closer to, celebrate it, but like I said, think about that one picture versus the 50.
Right.
Because people are jealous. People will be envious. It's human nature. And being aware of the evil eye is incredibly important.
So then, how do you protect yourself?
Protecting yourself, my other favorite subject. There are many, many ways that you can protect yourself from the evil eye. And you can start with, amulets, okay? Underneath here, you can hear me jingle, because I have a lot of amulets on. And anyone who knows an amulet is going to offer you protection. And it can be, a lot of people think it has to be what the horns or the cornicello or a hamsa or a nazar. It doesn't necessarily have to be. An amulet is what you make it. It's how you're going to charge that amulet. It's the relationship you have with it. Many people, their amulet is a saint medal. Sometimes it's a piece of jewelry that was passed down to them. Sometimes it's a stone, a particular stone or a crystal that you just have an affinity with or you feel something toward it. Once you charge that amulet, once you bless that amulet, once you make that amulet yours, that's going to protect you from the eye and from negative forces. And something interesting that I love to always mention about amulets, I've had so many times people have come up to me and said, "Oh no, you're not going to believe what happened to me. My hamsa, I got home and all of a sudden it fell off the chain, it cracked, boom, on the floor. I hung up this is on the wall and it fell and it broke and oh my God, I'm so upset. Or I saw it and it's cracked." That's actually not saying it's a good thing but what it is it's doing its job. The amulet took the hit. That's why it cracked. That's why it broke. So when you lose that amulet from around your neck and it cracks and you see it, you got to replace it, of course. But don't forget that your amulet is doing its job. It took the hit. It broke from the wall. It fell down. A lot of people don't think about the amulets in that sense. But they absolutely do their job.
We say that with the bracelets.
The bracelets.
When they burst,
if they burst.
Yeah.
There was one.
Just got a beautiful one there.
There was a customer who came in and he goes, "Oh, you got to restring this." And I go, "Whoa, what happened?" And he's like, "It just burst. It just exploded." And I go, "But what were the circumstances?" And he's like, "Well, I had a fight with my neighbor and I ran over and I was like screaming really loud." I was like, "Well, we're not going to restring that." I think maybe your rage exploded. It was such a perfect example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the amulets can assist you in that way, and then there are a lot of methods that I write about. But in terms of warding, there are hand signals and hand gestures you can learn to use. I spoke earlier, being Italian, this is a huge, the mano cornuto is a very big hand symbol. For some people, you want to do things with a little more maybe ritual. Yes, candle magic, putting salt in the corners of your home. These are some that are very standard things to do. Bay leaves. Carry 2 bay leaves with you at the end of the day. When you're done, you carry those bay leaves around. At the end of the day, light them. Burn away that negative energy that's there. There are so many different things to ward away. And when you're warding the evil eye, that's when you're taking, the time to say, you know what, I'm going to put up this symbol, or I'm going to wear this symbol, or I'm going to learn this particular prayer. How many times do we see it, or we drive around and you see, in the rearview mirror, something's hanging. You have an amulet hanging from there. It might be a hamsa, it might be an azar, it might be a rosary.
I got the best one.
Which one? Tell me.
I have a chicken foot
Oh,
that
big.
Michelle made.
Michelle
Big.
made it.
And I have a chicken foot that's holding a fluorite crystal. And let me tell you something. When I go to the car wash, woo, they're like, woo, this lady.
Oh, so I want one of those. I love that.
Michelle might have.
Michelle can make them.
Yeah.
They're real. She
They're
what'd you
real.
do? You didn't petrify, but she dried them and then she molded them.
Wow.
They're so
Yeah.
cool.
See,
Yeah.
that's incredible. That's incredible. So these are all things that you can take. You can take steps to keep the evil eye, at bay. But sometimes it happens that, you can ward, you can wear your amulet, you can do things, and yet it still does come in. You'll feel it in your life. You'll see it in your life, and you wonder. Then you get the whole thing. Do I have it? That big question
Right.
everybody always asks.
Yeah.
Do you have it? This is what's going on. Do I have it? And yes, you can learn how to diagnose or detect the evil eye. There's a whole chapter on that here. And that comes from many different areas. I was raised Italian, and the Italians use a lot of oil and water. There are prayers you can say, but oil and water do something in the water that doesn't usually happen when you say a prayer and you're looking for malocchio or the evil eye. So there are different methods to deflect the evil eye. There are different methods to diagnose it, and then there are different methods to banish it from your life. Many, many different things you can do. People always think it's one thing, or they say, I'm wearing this particular amulet. Nope, there's a lot more to it than that.
So you talked a little bit, but we weren't live yet. What are some of the symptoms that you might experience if somebody is giving you the evil eye?
So a lot of physical symptoms, the onset of a sudden headache. You get, your mood changes. You suddenly feel anxious for no reason. Anxiety, for no reason, just comes out of nowhere. where's that from? You begin yawning. Your eyes can start tearing. And of course, you always want to check in with yourself and say, wait a minute, I suddenly got a headache. Did I eat? Is my blood sugar low? You obviously want to be aware of what's going on physically and what you did. But once you realize that it's not, I ate, it's not that, I drank, I don't know why I have this terrible headache, I don't know why. Or maybe you're observing someone. I think we've all been in this situation, I know I certainly have, where maybe it's your friend, your coworker, whoever it is, and suddenly you know who they are. You've maybe been working with them for years or months, but you know it's not in their character to start all of a sudden sniping or all of a sudden to, just have this rudeness to them, or to just be sad, or to be, I don't want to be here. I'm just sluggish. I'm tired. I'm sad. These are all things that where the evil eye can manifest. There are more serious things also. I interviewed a lot of people. The people have experienced rashes. People have experienced bruising. People have experienced cuts. They've experienced all sorts of things. Also, as I also said earlier, look at what's going on in your life if you think you have the evil eye. Did stuff happen outside? Did you trip going down the stairs? Did you drop 4 plates? Did you drop the knives? Now you do it once or twice. Yeah, that's normal. But as happened to me recently when I said, something's going on here, I dropped a plate. I tripped going out of my apartment building. I kind of tripped going into my car and ended up hitting it was a bunch of stuff that is not usual. It doesn't always happen. So you look at these series of things that happen and, it's unusual. And for most of us, even someone who's incredibly klutzy and clumsy like me.
Me too.
It's unusual. I know when it's normal and it's not. So there are a host of physical symptoms. I do go over those too in the book. And then there are symptoms that you'll see in your life. Even things that, you've got to look at your home. The evil eye in the home, that's a big thing, okay? What are the eyes of your home? The windows. The windows are the eyes of your home. So you notice, cracks. You notice things going on. You have to be aware of that. And people might think you're crazy. People might say things, but once you become aware of it, noticing these little things, and they might seem little at the moment, but that little sort of thing has a big, big impact on your life. So just noticing certain things and being aware of it, that's how you start seeing that energy showing up in your life. And once you can recognize it, you then go on into the other space of learning how to dispel it. And it's fascinating to listen to people and to hear them say, this is what happened to me. And, the baby, a lot of times baby crying, and yes, babies cry. Of course they cry. But how much is normal for your baby? How much are they crying? How much is, or just look at what's going on around you. Is it normal for you to be feeling that way? Or is it normal for you to be sick for 5 days in a row? So these are all ways that you have to keep your attention focused on it.
So then, what are some easy tips for everybody to just immediately start implementing? If you're conversing with someone and you're like, I'm getting the evil eye right now. Like I just learned from you the horns, the horns. So the non-Italian, non-Mediterranean, like the horns is good to know that like blocks it.
Right, the mala cornuta, as we call it, and you can block it that way. Some simple tips, and I get that question a whole lot. The simplest tips, I always say, not everybody has access to different types of herbs or different types of things. You do if you can come here. They have a whole lot of incredible I was amazed by what I saw upstairs. I got to go shopping after this. But something as simple as keeping salt in your pocket. Something as simple as keeping, basil leaves in your pocket. These things can help you. I said before, bay leaves. Herbal remedies, simple things like that can ward away the evil eye, can keep your energy at a good level. The salt is a big thing, but I always tell people before you start implementing stuff, before you start reaching for the salt, before you start wearing the amulet, before you start getting the incredibly cool keychain. I found out someone has the same keychain as I have here. Amy has the same keychain as I do. Before you start doing those things, become aware of what the evil eye is and become aware of its possibility and how it may manifest in your life. You want to be knowledgeable about it first, because that knowledge is going to help you then take steps to doing it, whether it's for you, whether it's for your children, whether it's for your new house, whether it's for the wedding that's coming up. Every area of life, every season of life, every life event, you're going to meet people who are going to be envious, or who are, like I said earlier, who are not going to be pleased that you're living your best life, or that you're just happy. They're not going to be pleased. And again, that doesn't make somebody an evil person. No, this is human nature. People get jealous. People get envious. But, it hurts. And before you start implementing those tips, first become aware of what it is and take a serious look at what's going on in your life. I get a lot of email via my website, and a lot of people have emailed me and said, I have a story to tell you. And they'll tell me things about what's going on, and is this the evil eye? What do you think? First, or they'll say, what should I do? Like immediately they want the first thing. The first thing is to find out what the energy is. What is the eye? Look at it. Read about the history of it. It's not something that just came out of nowhere. It's not something that we sort of made up. It's very, very old, and that's what you want to do first and foremost. After that, you can begin implementing very, very simple remedies, very simple things, the amulets, the tools. Also, I tell people all the time, things you would never think of. There's a part in my book that people have spoken about, and, I called it spit to transmit.
Okay.
People don't think about saliva, for example. Okay, I give you a lot of, spitting in Greek culture too is a big, thing. In southern Italy, you would get a compliment or something, you'd spit. But I write about the historical aspects of what happens in spitting and where it's mentioned, even in the Bible, even things. One of the things that you can do, it's not always spoken about, but it's an old little practice, and it works a lot. A mother licking her thumb onto the child's forehead is a way to ward away the evil eye.
Yes.
So good.
I never understood the spitting thing. Can you explain that a little bit more?
I wrote this thing in the book. It's called. I was like, how am I going to explain this?
Let me understand.
So first and foremost, no, you should not go around spitting, because it can be illegal. Don't go spitting, just saying, I'm going to ward away the evil eye and spit. Don't do that. But it's a very, very common practice, and it goes way back. And I talk about in the book where it is you can read about the practices, about what was called even fasting spittle. People who fasted for several days, that spit was very, very powerful and considered very, very curative in some cultures and in some faiths. So it comes from, it's been around. I can't tell you exactly. I mean, it's been around for so long. I mean,
I envision like the little old grandmothers, just feisty, and I like her, but I don't know why she's spitting.
I interviewed an Italian. Why she's spitting? I interviewed a family.
I think she's great. I like
She's
a
great.
spitfire.
Yes, you want a spitfire.
Yeah.
But if you're doing something in private, I interviewed someone, and she said, well, the first thing we did, she was taught when they bought the new home, the first thing they did, she and the kids, they went and spit on the front door, to ward away evil. This was a practice that she had been taught, and it has, roots. It's not something that people just. Well, spitting, you're marking. Well, it's not the marking your territory so much, but you're again, it's a way to ward away the evil eye. Just like in parts of Italy, you'll see people will get a compliment and they'll spit.
So it's banishing bad vibes.
It's banishing vibes. But I'm not saying that someone's going to say, "Oh, hey, how are you?" Spit, and you're going to turn around and spit on the floor. That's not what I mean. I mean, sometimes in the privacy, people will turn around and remember that, and they'll say, "Oh, I met someone new," or maybe they said something like that. And the practice of spitting, of doing that, does ward away the evil eye, and that goes back to the saliva. And it has a long. I mean, I could write a whole book on something like saliva and its roots about the evil eye, because it's so fascinating to me. But that's an example of something that you can do when you don't have necessarily the herbs or the candles or something within arm's reach. Because your body, just like your body is technically, if you stretch your arms out, your body is a pentacle. Your body is also an amulet. If you learn to use it in that sense. You learn how to use gestures in that sense. You learn how to use your own eyes, not only to detect people who are looking at you, but in some ways, sometimes you're going to give somebody the evil eye, or you're going to look at things, and you're going to look at it and you're going to see it in a different way. So, and if that makes sense.
The message that I just keep hearing
Yeah.
in my mind's eye, thou shalt not covet.
Which
Which
I write about.
Right?
Yeah.
That's thou shalt not covet. So when
shall
people
not covet.
find themselves desiring what you have and feeling envious, they inadvertently essentially are given the eye.
Are given the eye. And many scholars and
Interesting.
historians believe that commandment is a reference to the evil eye.
This is fascinating. I love this.
So it has a long, very, very long history. But I'm glad you brought up the commandment, because I write about it, and I thought that was one of the most fascinating things as well. Thou shalt not covet,
Yeah.
simply.
Very
What does that
cool.
say to you?
Yeah.
Jealousy, envy.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's how it goes.
it does.
It's the never ending tale of humanity.
Yeah.
That,
It is the human condition.
And I think, like Danielle alluded to before, about social media and people's lives being so out there for everybody to see and judge and envy, that a lot of times, like you said, inadvertent jealousy is because it's such a mirror onto the things that you're not doing in your life when you're seeing other people succeed, or you're seeing other people have something that you don't have. And as I'm sitting here talking to you, I am hysterical inside about the ways I move through life that has been ingrained in me because of being raised as an Italian American girl, of how close I keep things to myself. Even I don't even want to, I have a secret, you guys. And the secret is I do most things, what I consider, under the cover of darkness. Okay? So what that means is I might be going someplace and having a time, and nobody will ever know because it's never on social media. You won't know it. It's just, they'll be like, where were you? I'll be like, I was home, sleeping. You're never going to know if it's true or not.
Right. Because
I have because of that. Because
Right.
it does. And it's so funny because even the other day I was in the post office with Danny's daughter, Haley. And she is such a bright light because she talks to everybody. She is the
nicest.
the nicest girl that will talk to every person. And I'm like, oh, please. So she was in the post office and she was talking to the postal workers as we're scanning, the 100th package of the day. And she's like, oh yeah, that's one of my bosses over there. I was the other end of so we're at opposite ends of the counter. And she goes, yeah, she's a big deal on TikTok. And I'm like, no. No.
She's like, no, I'm not.
Nope. Nope.
So funny.
be quiet.
Tell anybody.
She's young.
Over here minding my own business,
yeah.
want my mail scans.
Yeah, exactly.
So now that the eye, if the eye comes, it's coming from the post office.
Wow.
They made an announcement there, so
Damn
yeah.
postal worker.
But you were raised to keep things quiet.
Yeah, no,
for
but-
that reason.
But
That's
it wasn't even something that was explained. We keep it quiet because it was just you kept it under the wraps.
Right.
The toy, my bike. I was 12 years old, and I got one of my new bikes that I had gotten over the years. And my grandfather said, it's great. Be careful when you gave me all the safety talks. Be careful. And then it was the most. Don't talk about it. Try to just make sure it doesn't look too new. Don't tell your other friends you got it recently. Don't tell them you got it as a gift. Don't do this. Don't do that. Because what happens? Someone's going to give you the eye. The jealousy of that is going to have the eye on it. And this was constantly growing up. The thing about keeping it be quiet, because someone's going to look at you or look at the situation or the circumstance and be jealous. And that was all you needed. And from a lot of good stuff and good feelings and good experiences, what comes from that is the eye. Something negative is going to come out of that. That too is ingrained in a lot of cultures, I think. If it's too much
good.
Someone's going to steal that bike.
going to steal it, or it's going to come out,
Yeah.
or enough
So,
jealousy is going to
Right.
turn it around.
Something
Very
else is going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For
It's
sure.
serious.
What about the use of olive oil? Because I know it's very regional, these practices, which I love because it's where it's all derived from. So is there any sort of like anointing practices using olive oil or we talked about herbs?
Yeah. So I give in the book, I talk about before you begin on sort of this journey, if you're going to learn about evil eye magic, or you're going to learn about the evil eye and you want to learn how to diagnose it or detect it or cast it out, I suggest a blessing of the hands that's there. But when you're learning how to diagnose the evil eye, in Italian culture, oil and water is how you learn, is how you see if the eye is present. And it starts with, you fill your plate with water, and there's usually a prayer that has either been handed down to you or a prayer that you can learn. I have prayers that I've included in the book. And once you recite the prayer to yourself and you're doing it for a specific person, you will drop olive oil into the water. Now, what happens everybody knows what happens, oil and water. You drop the olive oil into the water, it's like forms this other layer, and you could see it. It's like just hanging around there. That's, there's a scientific word for it that I can't think of right now. But so the oil just, hangs out there. You could see it. When you are doing this detecting ritual to find out if you have malocchio, or the evil eye, as we say in Italian, you will drop the oil and you will absolutely see it. You will see it will vanish. Okay, that's one of the first signs of immediately it's there. You'll see it. You'll see that drop of oil vanish. You'll see the second drop of oil might also vanish. And the first time you do it, or you see it, it takes you because you're like, oh wait, what was in that, dish? What did you put in there? That wasn't water. That was some sort of tray. No, it's not. It's the practice that you're doing. When you're praying and you're doing this thing, you're changing the energy of what's happening there. So the effects are different. And you will see the olive oil disappear, or you will see that olive oil, that drop or those drops of olive oil, absolutely, they will disperse, they will form shapes, and then they will eventually disappear. And so you will see when the eye is present and when it is not. And if they hang out there and just sort of sit as they do, you'll know that, no, it's not. There's no evil eye present. So that's one of the ways in Italian culture. And it's you can see the prayers in the book, and there are different variations of it, different prayers for it. But it's not the only way. There are also ways in which you can use, again, herbs you can tie up and, see what happens with the scent. There's you can do it with an egg. There are many different ways you can tell, but specifically the olive oil, that is one of the most popular ways, and that's certainly the way I was taught with the olive oil in the water and seeing that the drops absolutely disappear. And you will see it. You can see it.
What's the practice with the egg?
There's one here that I was, that's called naming, naming the egg. This is the time the allergies for me start, so pardon me, I'm sorry if I cough. Someone takes an egg, and basically they'll ask you, and they'll write names or something on, who might have given you the evil eye today. You think you have it, who might have given it to you? You'll write down someone's name, someone else's name, someone else's name, and you put the egg and maybe a nickel or something in, and you sort of turn it over the person's head, and when you take the egg out, you'll see that where it's chipped or where it's broken, you'll see that that's usually over the person's name who gave you the eye. Also, something interesting about eggs, I don't know if it's ever happened to people, if you've ever seen an egg that's, bloody, an egg with blood, really, really potent sign of something, of energy that's gone awry in your life. But the egg ritual that I veered off course for a second, but the egg ritual that's in here is a fascinating one. And I encourage you, I encourage anyone to really look at that one too.
This is cool.
Because it's very cool, and people get very, very surprised by what they see or what's written. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Well, we're gonna have fun with this.
Oh boy. We have to go to Costco. We have like a 36 count of eggs because we got like a long list of people that we have to figure out. I'm just saying.
And
Starting off with the postal worker.
Does anybody in the audience have a specific question? Oh, right here.
I do. Yes. What's the purpose, or how does the salt work, and how much do you put, and where do you put it?
So salt, has been, a cleansing sort of agent. I mean, energetically, for such a long time. And salt, it's the earth, and it neutralizes energy, it cleanses. And if you just want to do something simple, you do a simplest ritual. Okay, you can sprinkle salt. Say your home is maybe, you got bad, people are fighting, everyone's fighting. Wasn't like this last week. This happened, that happened, everyone's fighting, you can't stand it, you got bad energy there. You sprinkle salt in your living room, the corners here and there. Maybe you're going to wait a little bit, you're going to say a prayer, maybe you're going to meditate, you're going to think about it, and then you begin and you can sweep it. You sweep it out the door, so it's cleansing the entire floor. But a sprinkle, you don't have to pour out. You see people pouring out. Don't pour out a whole canister of salt. It's not necessary. It's very powerful. You can take a little sprinkle of salt and throw it, in the corners of a room and leave it there for a while. That's meant to soak up negative energy. You can also keep salt. I have salt in a small mason jar that I keep. A few of them in various places, and people don't really know that they're there, but not a lot. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it absorbs negative energy and it neutralizes negative energy. So it's incredibly powerful, and it's simple. You can get it. Most of us have salt in the cabinet or something.
If you don't have salt in your cabinet, we're not coming over for dinner.
You need salt.
Okay, good.
Salt in every room.
Beautiful.
Definitely want that. Yes.
How do you keep yourself, or how do we keep ourselves from unintentionally giving
So excuse me. So from unintentionally giving the evil eye, the old practice of when you give a compliment and you think that maybe there's some underlying envy or maybe there isn't, from unintentionally, it's always, God bless you, or you can follow it up with another compliment. You can actually just tell yourself, excuse me, you give a compliment and you're not emitting the evil eye. You're not doing this. But I always recommend that people say something like, God bless you, or make a hand gesture inside their pocket. Out of that's, again, I was raised with a lot of this stuff. So we did all these hand gestures inside to make sure that we weren't giving the evil eye. And I think, but if you're already aware of it, that's you're more than halfway there. If you're already at the place where how do I not, make sure that I am not giving someone the evil eye, unconsciously kind of thing, you're already aware of it. So that in itself is working to ensure that you don't give it because you're aware of it. But I always tell people to either a hand gesture or to say something, God bless you, or after a compliment. That's the way.
Can a mezuzah protect you from the evil eye?
I'm sorry?
A mezuzah, if you have it.
Of course, a mezuzah is an amulet. Yes, absolutely, will protect you from the evil eye. I write about Judaism in the book and aspects, because it's very, very much in Judaism, the evil eye. Throughout all faiths, actually, and I mentioned this in the book. Aren't many faiths that don't have the evil eye somewhere incorporated historically into them, but a mezuzah is absolutely an amulet. Yes, absolutely, right on the door. Yeah, on the side. Yeah.
So I have memories of when I was about to have my first son, and he was born, and he was beautiful, had a beautiful round face, and the first thing my mother said, Cornicello, on the bib, immediately, because she said as soon as anybody sees that he's so beautiful, they're gonna put the evil eye on him for life. And this child will never, we can't have that, so I just,
Yeah. Remember that.
of course.
Yeah.
We
So-
have a little medallion on the
Yeah.
on the diaper.
Yeah.
For those of you on the live stream, they're talking about putting medallions on the babies because they're so beautiful, so that they didn't draw the evil eye.
So it used to be the diaper, if it would be cloth diaper, but once they started using, Pampers,
Pampers and stuff.
whatever, so then it was the bib, because then it would be cloth. And always did that.
And it was also, you would do it, or people would do it right before the baptism or something. They would do it so that sometimes it was the priest didn't care, depending upon, sometimes the priest would care and say, no, you can't do it, but people would pin. And I actually write about this amulet with the safety pin and how to make one in this book with a certain saint metal, and a cornicello is on, so it was also pinned many times to an infant's the garment, the onesie
Like
or the
secretly
garment.
inside?
Usually inside, so that it didn't draw, again, attention at a baptism or something, but then afterwards it was kept, usually inside, yes. Or the red ribbon, or a red string as well, yeah.
So another more modern way would be, I grew up in Sicily, so,
Oh, yeah.
New Year's Eve, everybody had to have their brand new pair of red
Red
panties or underwear.
Underwear, yep.
You could not start the new year without it, and that was to ward off the malocchio, because if you were making well wishes for the new year, you have to protect yourself.
I hope everybody can hear this because this is juicy stuff. I'm getting
And still to
inside
this
scoop.
day,
still.
my mother says we didn't buy the red panties. What are we gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Why the red undergarment?
So red, it's interesting. It goes along. If you see a cornicello, most of the time people will say to you, "There's that old the story about what's his name? One Sebastian Maniscalco, the comedian, will talk about how he went out with a girl and the father said the evil eye, and she said, "Why is there a red pepper hanging from your car?" And it's not a red pepper; it's a horn. It's a a cornicello. It's a horn, but it's red. So historically, a lot of scholars believe that the red symbolizes victory over enemies, and it can also symbolize victory over Satan or evil forces. For some reason, red in many cultures was associated with evil. I don't personally associate it with evil. I happen to love the color red, but it's a powerful color. But the red underwear is absolutely true. And I've done that on New Year's Eve, absolutely. And also, I make something in the book that I wrote about in warding, also an Italian thing, to ward off the evil eye. If someone gives you a compliment, you were told, men, to put your hand somewhere. Yeah. To grope it. Yep.
Wow.
Always.
Yeah.
In fact, in Italy, you'll see.
That they,
Yep. Grab
no
it.
shame, it's just a
Nope.
wow.
Nope.
We're talking about crotch grabbing.
Thank you.
Anybody, you know?
Oh, no, you're own.
Grabbing
Your own, not
I
somebody
mean,
else's.
that's so
Your
boring.
own crotch. Maybe, but it's your own crotch. Don't go grabbing somebody else. But that's
yeah,
also
don't go grab other people's crotch.
right.
I'm actually
That's
going to go home and I'm going to tell my husband that I'm going to start grabbing his crotch.
But
and tell him
you're
that I'm
married. It's your
practicing.
husband. Tell him that you're
Protecting
practicing.
him.
That's different.
Oh, my
That's
goodness.
different. And also, I believe I think it's in our, it's a culture. I did write about it to ward off the evil eye. You pinch your butt. Or you pinch someone else. Yes.
You pinch someone else's
No,
butt or your own
yours.
butt?
You immediately, someone gives you a compliment, you turn around, you pinch your butt. And it's
I like the
something-
horns.
I like the horns,
the
or the Dokati, you know what I'm talking about. You can speak
Interesting.
about. So yes, these are all examples of
And
ways
you
to
mentioned
ward
the
away
red
the evil eye.
string? Is that
Red string. Sicily's big. Italian. Yep.
Why?
And she did
Why is it-
again. Red also. It's a custom also in Judaism. The red string is also there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, red from growing up Italian. Red. It was you wore. It was either tacked on again to an infant's thing or to the back of the onesie there, or it was tied up. Sometimes it was tied on the stroller. You know, you had the red string tied on the stroller there, so the kid couldn't get to it, but it was there doing its protection. Much for the same reason, the color red is thought of as a color of victory over your enemy. And also there are so many. Every time I spoke to or interviewed someone from a particular culture, they would tell me, did you know about this or did you know about that? And no, there are many aspects even of of Italian culture, of course, and Italian folk magic and things. Depending on the region of Italy, it's entirely different. Because in parts of Sicily, certain hand gestures don't mean what they mean in Naples, for example, and you got to be careful. So different areas of Italy have different folk traditions when it comes to magic and when it comes to malocchio and the evil eye. And that's true of a lot of cultures. The folk traditions are different regionally. And you'll find that that's true. You speak to someone from, my mother's town or where she came from or my father came from, both in southern Italy, but it's different, even with how they diagnose in some places the evil eye. The olive oil in the water is always, in my opinion, there, but there's always different prayers. There's also this idea, by the way, and this I always get into, people sort of go crazy about this, but the passing down in Italian culture of the evil eye, the malocchio prayer, is, for many Italian Americans, it's done on Christmas Eve. However, that's not always the way that it's done. There are, and I know people screamed and yelled at me for this, but it is true. You don't have to hand down that prayer. There are certain villages or towns in Italy where a particular saint day is very, very popular. You might pass for some reason on the day of St. Anthony, the day of St. Joseph, a certain festival, a religious festival, and it's not Christmas Eve. So regionally, it makes a big difference, and you'll find differences there, and they're all fascinating and all very powerful.
Yeah, it's very interesting because as you were talking about it, I realized I wear my Blessed Mother bracelet like every day. So even if I don't have my other bracelets, that one
That
I
goes
feel,
on.
that goes on.
Yeah.
And I work with Archangel Michael, and you said that that's very much a part of this practice.
Oh,
so then the
huge.
saints as well. So
The saint, of course, and people think of the saints, as saintly, pardon the word, but if you read about lives of the saints or things, the stories are not pretty, all of them, and they're not, there's a lot of gory stuff in the lives of the saints. And people use the saints actually a lot also in different forms of protection magic. And that's a whole other subject and a whole other everything. But when it comes to the evil eye, yes, I mentioned certain saints in the book who are specifically invoked for the evil eye or petitioned for the evil eye. And many people have told me that they'll wear that saint medal that they received. It never comes off. It's on the shower, it just doesn't come off until it falls off, but it's always there. And you say you might not wear your
every
other
day.
bracelets,
Yeah,
but
that's what's
your
on.
Madonna's there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same.
simple. Same.
I never take any of these off. I actually never take any of my jewelry off. So I'm a terrible jewelry wearer because I always tell people, I'm going to sell you this. Don't wear it like me.
Well, I'm blinked.
They never
I
take
have-
it off.
I used my niece will say that she could hear me coming down the hall sometimes because I jingle.
You have layers under there.
I jingle. I have layers under here, and she'll
How I
say,
am with
"Uncle,
my
you're
bracelets."
jingling." Yeah, and it jingles, but that's what happens. You
Yeah.
wear your stuff and you wear it.
Somebody's going to
Yeah.
explode.
See, and I got my beautiful bracelet.
Have there been any online questions from the audience?
I think Michelle had a question too.
There was one about the red string, but you covered that. Somebody said, my family did not believe in baby showers. I'm Italian, only gave gifts after the baby.
We were just talking about that. We had a whole convo.
Totally, I write about that too in the book. Nope, baby showers were a frightening concept. I remember the first time my mother saw an invitation to a baby shower, and she was like, "What is this?" No, and yeah, it's you don't celebrate or do that until the baby's born. Yeah, there's a whole big thing, and that all relates to the evil eye. All grounded in the evil eye. Who's gonna put the eye on you? Yeah, grew up the same way. That baby showers were not
Similar in
something.
Poland, another old way of doing things, which is not to set up the nursery until after.
After.
baby.
Right. We spoke about that. Yeah.
Did you have a question, Michelle?
Nothing in the house in Jewish.
Nothing in the house until the baby's born. Like you could get baby gifts, but you don't set up the room, you don't bring, well, the crib we set up, I set up, but you don't bring anything in the house for the baby until they're born and healthy.
Right.
And my 10-year-old over there, red is his favorite color, and he's the most chill kid.
There you go.
He's got like such an even demeanor. So when you were talking about red, that's his favorite color.
There we go.
There you go.
Love that.
It's like,
It's
thanks for
always
embarrassing
rooted in the
me.
evil eye.
What's
It's
Michelle's
always rooted-
question?
Michelle.
So you were speaking about like learning about the evil eye. So is it the awareness or the lack thereof of receiving it that would feed it? Does that make sense? don't know if
I
that's
think
a
it does make sense. I know what you're saying. I think what makes you susceptible to it, you mean, sort of?
Yeah, like if you're aware of it, instead of feeding into it, and like you know, if you're calm, you keep like the bad things keep happening. Like how could you is it like more of like an awareness and a mindset of like I'm gonna block it out and I'm gonna change? Like
Yes, I think I understand what you're saying. And if you're aware of it, you're able to then take steps more proactively to say, wait a minute, I'm aware of, I felt something intuitively. I felt something, a bad energy. I felt or I heard the way that person said something to me, or I didn't like that look. When you're aware of it, you can name it. You know what it is. You can say, you know what, I think that person's, giving me malok or giving me the evil eye. I think that's that awareness
practicing that.
gives you the knowledge to deflect it or to, in that moment even, you're looking at it, you're naming it, you're knowing what it is, as opposed to not being aware of it. Just that's so many people who I've spoken to who still, who will email me or contact me will say, I never heard of that before I saw your book. Now I'm aware of it, but, I have, and it always comes with stories to tell you. I'm going to tell you what happened. Someone gave me a look, and this is what happened thereafter. But being aware of it, I think, makes you, puts you in just a stronger position, because knowledge in that sense is power. And when you're aware of it, you can just go about taking the steps to deflect it very quickly in that moment, which is important.
So I have a glass evil eye that as soon as you walk into my apartment, it's right there. So would you recommend that people have like an evil eye on display in their home as an added protection? Is that just...
Oh, sure. I mean, people have now, I've seen backsplashes that people have of Nazaras. And when we say the evil eye, a lot of people say my evil eye jewelry, and we all
Right.
say that. What we're talking about, this is the Nazar, and it looks like the eye, the blue eye. That's called the Nazar. And a lot of people say, oh, I'm putting on my evil eye. Well, you're actually putting on the Nazar. So a common practice is you might have, if you walk into someone's home, you might see a mirror right away. That's a common practice in many cultures, because as soon as you come into the home, if someone has bad thoughts or envy or whatever, it's being reflected back on them. It's going back out.
Always
you
by the door.
open the door,
Always by
and
the
it's
door.
going out. So there's a reason for having
I like that.
something glass
Yeah.
or an amulet. So in the house, I particularly recommend them when you first walk in. If you can't do that, that's fine. Just find a place where you can hang an amulet anywhere. And you can also, and again, I discussed that you can also have amulets that people don't know about. One of my favorites is having an amulet. I made just a drawing of the mano cornuta, and you can put it underneath the welcome mat. If you put it underneath the welcome mat, what happens as soon as somebody walks into your home? They're stepping on a welcome mat or that front door mat. Any negative energy that they're doing is neutralized before they come into your home. These are small steps you can take, but they have a really big impact when it comes to energy. And remember, energy can't be destroyed. It can just change form. So it's always there, and that's why working with it and being aware of it, same thing. So if you can find some place to hang up an amulet, yes. There are also other ways you can arrange things. You can arrange other objects to form amulets in your home. You have people coming over, and maybe you can form what's called a Nazar plate, and that's going to deflect the evil eye. And it's not necessarily an amulet that you're going to hang up. You're going to create it right there, right before people come into the house, before a dinner party, before
Right.
welcoming party, something like that. So yes, that's very important. The home, huge,
Yeah,
huge for the eye.
cool. What about brooms? Like I have a besom broom also hanging?
The
I mean,
hanging
that's-
of the broom. More importantly,
'Cause you
yes,
sweep out
you
the
sweep out.
bad energy,
You
right?
sweep out. Brooms are incredibly important. A lot of people don't think about that, and I'm so happy you brought it up, because a lot of people don't think of the broom. It's like, oh well, it's a broom. It's a broom, but an incredibly powerful tool when you're cleaning up. Not only physically cleaning up your home, getting the stuff off the floor and the cobwebs and all that, but you're also energetically sweeping away things. That also goes back to Italian. If you think about the story of La Befana, what does she do? She sweeps out the old when she comes back in January, and she makes room for the new. You can do that practice of using the broom, the besom broom, and you can sweep out that negative energy. And you go from room to room and you sweep it out, and you use your, what is your intention? You're sweeping out the negativity, you're sweeping out the evil eye, malokya, anything like that. The broom, incredibly powerful as its own tool and as its own amulet. Yeah,
people
absolutely.
sprinkle herbs and they sweep
And sweep them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Antonio, I wanted to ask you something else, because it's a tradition. I don't know if it's just my town or not, but anytime that you're moving into a home that's new to you, you have to have a new broom, you have to have salt, and you have to have fresh fish that you're frying on the premises the first night that you're there. And all of those
So
are
specific.
literally to sweep out, but it has to be a new broom,
Okay.
so that you're
I've
not
heard the
carrying
new
in
broom.
any bad
Bad
energy.
energy.
This is my problem.
But also, the
my
fried
problem.
fish has like a big, but it's all to ward off malokyo and to keep the evil intentions of calling in evil spirits as well.
Why the
I don't know
fish?
why
The fish I was gonna, because I've heard of the broom,
I've
not of bringing. I've heard of the broom, but the frying of the fish, and that's curious. Might be
The
from
frying of the
regionally.
fish
Yeah.
is because the thought is that anywhere you go, you're gonna have spirits, ghosts and spirits that are there. So there are il padrone della casa, it would be how it would be referred to. So basically, there are ghosts or spirits that are the owners of the house. So you want to say to them, I'm grateful to you to allow me to be in this space. Here's dinner for you. I'm offering
Respect,
you the best catch. I'm offering you, and it's rich because fried food are rich. And I'm sharing this with you.
It's very
to
Mediterranean.
To
please them.
protect my home, protect me, because now I'm being amicable to you and I'm grateful to you. So you're showing gratitude.
And they were there first.
This
And
is
they're staying
fascinating.
there probably, right?
Yeah.
They're staying there. And you want to make
Well, because
friends.
you're assuming
Yeah.
that they're gonna,
They're going to watch over.
Yeah.
you want
You want them to like you.
Right.
You want them to like you. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fascinating. See? That is so
I love that.
fascinating.
Here's some fish.
Yeah.
You eat it with them.
You eat it with them.
You leave a plate
You come
on
in.
the table overnight.
But isn't it ironic though, and you mentioned this in your book, this is what I wanted to
Yeah.
say. I love the part that you mentioned, because I grew up, I'm Greek American, and most Greeks are so afraid of the Mati evil, like it's paranoid, like it's almost paranoid in my eyes, you know, it gets paranoid. And the fact that it's all throughout the Bible, and it's like these people go to church and they read about it, and I'm like, don't you understand that's a spell? Don't you understand, like,
Right.
that is, like, what you're doing right now is, you know, it's invoking, you know what I mean? And they have no clue that that's exactly, the Bible is like a witch's dream, you know? Seriously, people don't think of it that way.
A lot of
but
people say
the
spell book.
saging, everything, the herbs, everything. But on the second note, I want to ask you, growing up Greek American, my parents didn't believe in the evil eye, but the rest of our community did. So our family was always like your daughter. Hi, good morning.
Yeah.
You know, like you look so beautiful today. I love your glasses and you
Yes.
know all this stuff. And if a Greek saw you with your hands in your pockets like this, they would get offended. They were like, what you think I'm trying to evil
Give
eye
you the evil
Like,
eye.
what's going on here?
Right.
So, where's the fine line of your friend giving you a great compliment and saying, "Oh, you look so beautiful today," and then next thing you know, she gets the flu and she's like, "Oh my God, you gave me the evil eye." Like, where's that?
The fine line, yeah.
Where your friend is like, "Oh, I thought she was my friend. She just gave me the evil eye," when you know it's part of science. You have the germs, and you know.
Right.
It's just her body.
That, I believe, and that's a great question, and it's true, the paranoia. You can't live in a constant state of
And, you know, Greeks
paranoia.
and Italians are very paranoid.
Very paranoid. Very paranoid. Is every compliment something? You know, is every compliment you know, my love for the
little
evil
bit.
eye.
A little-
It's a little
yeah.
bit.
What
Yeah.
does he want? What does she
Is that
want?
true?
My
That
whole family. No, kidding me?
the fine line, I believe, comes with, again, the awareness of it and the practice of learning about it and the practice of seeing, do I have the evil eye? Am I recognizing what's happening in my life? Am I recognizing what's happening in my body? Am I doing the rituals that are here to, you know, detect whether or not I have the evil eye? Once you get into it and you recognize it more, you can even recognize, this is something that I always say, when you, whether you're a magical practitioner or not, if you hone a certain, your instinct, you get the intuitive vibe about things. And oftentimes the intuition is what will tell you more than before the flu hits. You know what I'm saying? Before that compliment, as soon as that compliment comes in, your intuition is going to give you that sense, the ding. You're going to feel it. And that comes from practice. That comes from meditation. That comes from, you know, using the amulet, using the salt, doing those practices and those rituals. Not, you don't have to do things fanatically, but just work them into your life. Make it make it a monthly thing to sweep out your home, to use salt, to do that. Maybe make it every morning when you put on your particular amulet. You know, maybe you're gonna thank somebody. Maybe you're gonna, you know, say a quick prayer to line. So I think the fine line is something that you absolutely learn through intuition because it awakens within you. And that compliment, you're not gonna have to wait to see. You're not even gonna, you know, when you get the flu 2 days later, whatever it is, it's not even gonna get to that point. Long before, like within seconds of that compliment, you're gonna know whether or not, you're gonna feel it. And that's gonna lead you to, you know what, let me take the steps. Let me take out the oil and water, or let me take out the egg, or let me do this, or let me go back to, you know, the salt or the rituals. that I've learned. So I think the fine line just comes with the awareness and the practice, and it is a practice. But yes, a very good question. You don't want to live. You want to live with knowledge and awareness, but not with
But also, if you're a genuinely nice person that compliments her, like your daughter,
Yeah.
she talks to people and everything like that. Like she might be like, all of a sudden they might think, oh, that little girl just gave me the evil eye. Like,
She's just
but she did it,
sunshine.
you
She's
know.
actually our secret weapon.
Well, but they say in Italian, someone would say about the kid, "Guardata storta." Somebody looked at you with a broken glance, sort of thing, and that was bad. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
we're it's
Time flies.
time.
when
Yeah,
you're having
we've
fun.
been all chatting for an hour, and we could talk for another 3. But the most important thing is we have dinner reservations at 8:30.
Well, at an
So-
Italian restaurant.
Yeah, so we can't be late for that.
Guys, I encourage you all to get this book. We
So
sell
good.
it online. We sell it here in the shop. We are going to have Antonio sign them before we go to the restaurant. And this will be saved as well. So you can watch this and get the tips and then learn how to do it through this book. I know I learned so much tonight. So thank
Absolutely.
you so much. This is
Thank
really
you.
exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Wow, I can't believe the crowd.
Wonderful.
Incredible.
Beautiful.
All right. Good night, Internet land.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to us today. We look forward to connecting with you again soon, so be sure to come back for the next episode.
And make sure to follow us on social media. It's the fastest way you can get in touch with us at Amityville Apothecary, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And of course, like, subscribe to this podcast. We are eternally grateful for your support.